Hey everyone, I'm Brittany Jones Cooper, and welcome back to Build. The new show American Woman follows a divorcee named Bonnie who is struggling to raise her daughters and find her voice in the 1970s. The story was loosely inspired by the childhood of Real Housewife of Beverly Hills, Kyle Richards, who also serves as an executive producer on the project. She joins us today, along with the show's stars Alicia Silverstone, Mena Suvari, and Jennifer Bartels. I cannot wait to chat with these women, but before we bring them out, let's check out a clip.
I want you to know the truth. A liar is the worst thing you can be. A stripper is also bad.
American woman.
Hello?
Hey, honey, listen, I'm stuck at work. We're having an emergency.
Really? You have emergencies in real estate?
We're just gonna forget that this ever happened and just move on.
Yeah. I can't do that. Steve and I split up. How are you going to survive? I'm letting go of Julieta. What? Who's going to clean? I also fired the gardener. What? Who's going to garden? I need a job.
Try working twice as hard for half the recognition and a quarter of the pay.
I'll find a way to take care of my girls.
Mom, slow down.
But I haven't been out in years, so I am ready to have a good time.
I did not know there were this many beautiful people in the world.
You here alone? You swing?
Beg your pardon?
There are people doing things in these bedrooms that I did not know were possible. Look, they don't mind.
He's so sweet and attentive. There's just no spark. I think it might not be his type. Well, what is his type?
I feel like you just woke up in someone else's life.
This is Hollywood. I feel like that every single day.
If you're gonna make it in this town, you're going to need some balls. Is she with you?
She's my friend.
Now that takes balls.
I like my life without you.
We are all stronger than we think we are.
You know, women can start businesses.
Look at you. Why in the world would you let a girl like you go?
It was almost as if I had a mind of my own.
American woman.
Strap yourself in, it's gonna get rough.
Everybody put your hands together for this wonderful group of ladies. Guys, I'm really excited. I got to check out the first 3 episodes, and I got to say, you have a fan over here. It's really fun, but also inspiring, and I think, you know, we know a lot of these stories of women working after a divorce and kind of struggling on their own, and so I think it's really relatable for a lot of people. Kyle, we'll start with you. Obviously, this is a very personal project for you. It is loosely inspired, not quite autobiographical, by your childhood. So can you kind of take me into why you wanted to be a part of this?
So when she was sick, I would, reflect back on my life growing up with my mom and who she was and what made her who she is. And I would write down stories, and I eventually thought, well, I want to do something with this. And that's why we're here today. I wanted to share her story. As Alicia said it, and I kind of agreed, so now I'm using it. It's a love letter to my mom and to all moms, and I hope that it inspires a lot of women.
What do you think your mom would think of the show?
I think she'd be proud because she always wanted me to, chase my dreams. And she said, whatever you want to be, you can become whoever you want. You have the power to do that. And I know that she knows this is something I've always wanted to do and that I'm loving it. So I think she'd be happy.
And Alicia, how did you get tapped to be a part of this project, or what kind of drew you to American Woman?
I read the script and thought, what an incredible, juicy role for a woman and for me. And I got really excited. In the pilot, Bonnie goes through so much. She's dealt a lot of different cards, and it's just a juicy, meaty part. So I got really excited about it.
And you mentioned the things that she goes through, and without giving too much away, she's going through this kind of messy situation with her husband. And this was based back at a time where he was working, kind of supplying all of the money. And there's this one line where he was like, "You're not showing any gratitude for what I've given you." And I was like, ew.
I know, right?
But I'm sure that's something that's really relatable for a lot of people. So when you had to be a part of those scenes, did you get really passionate about having to be a part of that?
There's a lot of really. There's one line, we're in bed together, and he said, and she says, Bonnie says to him, if I had a little bit of money of my own, I wouldn't have to ask you all the time. And I just think that's so humiliating. And, you know, but it's her truth. Like, she's just has to beg and ask for, and it was just to get him a present. She's just trying to get him a present, but she has to, but the truth is that's the job she took. The job she took was to be his wife. And in that time, that was a job. And that was a career. And she gave up her dreams of being anything else. And so when he crosses her, what I love so much about Bonnie is that the right thing, like, he grabs her. Another awful thing he says to her that would make you cringe is he grabs her arm and he says, you know, you're just going to put your head down. I'm the husband. I make the rules around here. You're going to put your head down and you're going to move on. Like, as if, and for 1975, he's being nice. You know what I mean? He's not really saying anything abnormal. That's the way it was. And she, so courageously, without any thought about whether she's going to survive or not, just goes, hell no, and pulls a knife and goes nuts. And so she takes this real leap of faith, having no idea what's on the other side of it. So I think that for me, the lesson, or what is really exciting and inspiring to me about these women and their journeys, and especially what happens with Bonnie in this moment, is that we all get stuck in life, but, you know, we don't always free ourselves. And I think watching her just go, rah, and not know what she's falling into. She doesn't know that she's going to be able to put food on their children's plates, but she just does it, and it's really courageous. And it's exciting to watch her come from really high up, fall really low, and then have to crawl her way back up desperately back to normal.
You do find her finding her strength a lot in times where maybe she didn't even know how strong she was.
Yeah.
And I think maybe a lot of that comes from her being a mother, and that she has to survive for the girls a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? That's like a big part of it when I watched.
Always had to put on a brave face, you know, to be strong for, you know, she was raising 3 daughters that she also wanted to be strong and independent. So she was always having to put up that front. And of course, as a child, you're not really sure, why is she in a bad mood today? Or, you know, you're seeing her, you know, paying the bills, you know, stressing out. You know, I knew when that mail came, it was like not a good day usually. So, you know, she always had to put on a brave face, which all of us do. And I think that, you know, one of the great parts about my mom, you know, that she was always putting us first and making sure that we felt safe and secure.
I think the community of women around you is also really important, especially when you're going through any sort of trial. And Bonnie does have her 2 girls, which you 2 play so expertly, she has her 2 daughters that she has to take care of, but she has her friends who sort of look out and take care of her. Mm-hmm. So Mena, you play this really hilarious Southern belle named Kathleen.
Yeah.
So just tell me a little bit about her.
So Kathleen, yes, she comes from the South. She talks a lot about having, 4 sisters who are all, married, and it's sort of like a well-off family lifestyle that they have. She refers to Daddy a lot, that everything has been sort of done for her, and it's very easy for her. And we find her out in Los Angeles, I believe, because she has, a independent streak. She's more adventurous, and I think that there's inherently something more that Kathleen wants for herself, and she is, business oriented, and you see her sort of, looking for love and looking for happiness, and then that sort of steering her off into all kinds of adventures throughout the show.
And even though she comes from money, she's still part of this women's lib movement where she wants something of her own.
Yeah, I mean, I think just, the fact that she's, in her 30s and not married yet and doesn't have children and living this lifestyle, I mean, I think that, I think that there's something that's always sort of been inherently, within her that, she discovers throughout the series, that there is more that she independently wants.
And I love how different the 3 women are, because you play Diana, who is also single, but she's working, and she's working at a bank, and she's kind of just struggling to find her way in that world, which seems so relevant still, unfortunately, with things like the pay equality and the gender wage gap and all of those things. So what is Diana's sort of journey in American Woman?
Well, I think in the pilot episode, you're introduced to these characters, and I can speak with all 3 of them. You don't know where the show's going to go, and that's such a wonderful ride to go on. Diana's character is the working woman, the buttoned up, has to go and make ends meet and take care of her mother woman in a time where you know, the woman's place was at home, and it was off if you were single and you were trying to work your way up the corporate ladder or make a name for yourself independently. And so I think, you know, that's Diana's kind of in a nutshell, but then where she goes and kind of how she unravels. And I think she gets to a place where she starts to play the game, throw the ball back, and not a lot of women did that. And in playing this game, she gets into a lot of sticky, sexy situations.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, sticky, sexy situations.
Yes, I love that. That should just be the tagline of the show. Why not? Just try it out, see how it goes. So the timing of this show feels really perfect, obviously, with what we're going through with Time's Up and Me Too and just women sort of refining their voice. It's almost like a third wave of feminism in a way. So does it feel good to be a part of a show like this right now that's sort of showing maybe how far we've come and how far we still need to go a little bit?
You go ahead.
Well, just that women's rights have been happening since the 1800s, and there's been various stages of waves of it. And in the 70s, it was such an exciting time because we were coming out of that 50s and 60s. When I think of the 70s, I don't really think, now I do, but prior to doing this, I didn't think of the 70s as so far back. It felt more current. You think of like bell-bottoms and fringe and, you know, hippie days, but you don't think of like how 50s and 60s mindset was so a part of our culture. So we couldn't, like a woman really had a very difficult time getting a loan. You know, it was 2 years after Roe versus Wade that this takes place. Like so we've come very, very far today, but then it's exciting to see where else we need to go. There's always going to be room for us to, sadly, to keep growing. But I think that it's incredibly exciting that we made this show before all this stuff got fired up again. So it must have been bubbling under the surface. And that people want to tell these stories about women. You know, this is what people want. This is what's going on. And now it's come out in a huge way. So it's very timely.
Anybody else on that one? Yeah?
No, this started 5 years ago, coming up in October, and it's just sort of this timing, you know, and now, like we said, so many things that we were dealing with then, we're still dealing with today, and yes, we have come so far, but we have so much farther to go, and, you know, watching the show, you really realize that, but I just like the idea of, you know, strong women and the strong female relationship, so, and just to be a part of that during this time, it keeps coming up, you know, and just having that be a conversation over and over again, I think is important.
And I grew up with a single mom, and she has 7 sisters. So that community of like women thing is really, I've seen how it can impact and change lives. How has that impacted you guys? Do you guys have communities of women around you that support and build you up too?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I feel really lucky that I have a really nice core of amazing women, you know, like talented in various areas of life, and that just support me and, you know, knock some sense into me every once in a while and help me along the journey. I mean, I can't even imagine where I would be without them.
I think it's important to have close, strong female friendships because a lot of times we're put against each other. I've been saying this a lot because I'm realizing, wow, society really likes to peg women against women. Not always, but there's just a lot of pressure on us in different, you know, with this path of being a woman. And so to have empowering women around you that make you feel like you can, and like even in this show, like, yeah, we can do this. We are stronger if we work together and we lift each other up. I don't know, I think this show hits that, but I think in real life it made me really respect the relationships I have and how important they are in my life.
That's when I watched the show, I was like, thank God I have my friends, you know, like this just, like even the one friend was like, I'll give you money. And she's like, oh, that's nice, but like, no. But just like having people around you is really great. And, you know, we can't leave without talking about the theme, the style of the show. It's so sexy, and the costumes, and how fun was it to just go back and kind of play in that era?
It's a very, you talk about more, but it's a very sexy time. 1975 in Los Angeles, in Beverly Hills, is a very sexy place. The sex, the drugs, the rock and roll, the clothes, the jewelry, the makeup, the hair. I mean, it's just sexy, wild times. And I love that you are transported into that space immediately, but at the same time, it feels so now. and it's so contemporary, and you can relate to everything that's happening. So it's a really good balance of being transported and right where we are right now at the same time.
No, it was a lot of fun. I mean, Judy Gelman, our costumer, I had many moments of playing with her in the costume department, building on the lot, having fittings, and just getting lost in all of the fashion. I love it. I've always loved it. It's a period of mine that is really special to me, and so that was definitely a lot of fun every day to play with.
You guys are definitely handling some heavy topics, but I was surprised to find that the show's funny. Like, it's got a lot of humor and a heart, and the one-liners of Bonnie are really great, and her, Diana too. That's her name, right? Yeah. I was like,
What if I was like Sheila?
yeah, I was like, did not do my research.
Watch it.
No, kidding. But the one-liners are really fun. So I want to know, how much of that is your mom?
My mom was really funny, and her friends, especially one of her best friends, who's actually Diane. It's Diane on the show. Very, very funny. And I just grew up, my house was filled with women. So my parents were divorced before I can even remember. And it was my mom, the three sisters, my mom's, best friends were always there. That was her village, helping her raise her daughters. My grandmother lived with us. That was like filled with strong women. And being funny and supporting each other was just like how I grew up. So when I watched the show, it was, it was really important to me in making An American Woman that it had all of those elements, the humor and all of that, even though they're going through a hard time. So.
You mentioned your sister. I know I watch Real Housewives, of course. And I know your sister Kathy had some hesitations about this project. Has she watched any of the show yet, or where are you guys at with your relationship concerning the movie?
She has not yet, so I'm looking forward to her seeing it on Thursday when it airs, and getting a better idea of what the show is, because it's inspired by. It's not autobiographical, and there's a lot of things I could hear him talking about the father character, her husband. My dad was not like that. But there are a lot of stories that happened throughout the show that actually did happen, but this is like a fictionalized version of it. So I'm there to tell my stories from my point of view. I'm not there to share anyone else's stories, and I know that I'm coming from a place of love and the utmost respect for my mom. So.
And to end things off, what is a takeaway that you guys just hope people can feel when they watch American Woman?
Excited. That they can relate to it, that I think they're going to fall in love with all of these characters, and I really hope that women are inspired by it, that everyone's inspired by it.
Yeah. Jenny?
I would say to know who you are. I feel like these three women, through various different journeys, find their voice, or they find out their worth and what they're capable of doing without dependence on anyone else, but only by choice are they surrounded by these strong female friendships and the people they want in their life. And I think that's a message that stands the test of time, is knowing your worth and that sense of self-love and that you can do it. And that it sounds a little cheesy, but it's the truth. Mm-hmm. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
No, I think to sort of, piggyback off of what Jen was saying, for me, it was a really awesome experience because I thought a lot about my mother and the obstacles that, she had come up against in this day and age, what it must have been like for her as a woman. And I thought about my own life. And so there was a lot of reflection throughout the whole process. And that's something that I love so much about the show, is the possibility of conversation around it. And that it's not just something fun and exciting and beautiful to watch, but we can have discussion about it as women, and what we still experience and what we've come out of, and that whole thing.
Absolutely. And you? Or did they say all the good stuff?
They said all the good stuff. I would just add that they definitely said it beautifully, all of them, but that something you were talking about earlier about the mother thing. I love that Kyle definitely feels that her mom has nothing but respect for her mom and loves her mom so much, and she's unscathed, right? But where, as an actor playing this character on the page, it's really fun for me because she does such terrible things. So while Kyle feels that they're perfectly, you know what I mean? It's her mommy, so she feels like, and because they're not always real and not always her experience, but for me, what I love is what's
I
that?
like to call it.
What did you say?
Questionable.
Yes. So sometimes, in the pilot, in the first episode, what I love is you'll be watching her do something, and you're like, no, don't do that. Like, it's the worst thing you could do. And she believes it's the right thing to do. So it's the conviction of this character and what we've talked about as being a mother. I think why mothers can enjoy this is Bonnie's not always doing the right thing. She is doing it with so much love and with so much passion, but it's not always the safest or more sensible choice. And so I think there's a lot of fun and forgiveness to all moms of like, we're all doing the best we can. And we're all gonna make mistakes, and we are fighting, these women are fighting for their lives. They're fighting for their survival, and they are liberating themselves. And that is really what the show is about.
And isn't that something I think every woman comes to realize at some point, is that your mother was just a human. She was just a person, and she was inherently flawed, and there's so much to learn from her experience. And so I think it's kind of cool that you really get to explore your journey that way. Because even that, as I'm growing, I'm like, God, my mom really went through a lot. She's really impressive, and wow, she really overcame a lot. And I think that's part of womanhood, is like coming to that realization.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Very true.
So I think it's a good time to open up for some questions from the audience.
Hi. My name is Christian. I love all of your projects in the past, and with this new project, what was your biggest challenge playing your characters?
We can just go down the line.
Do you want to start? Because I can't stop thinking.
Biggest challenge of playing your character?
For me, I was really excited about the story in general, and it being a dramedy is the type of space that I've wanted to work in a lot more, the comedic element. So a character like Kathleen, I was a bit apprehensive about it. She sort of made me feel anxious, but I was also really excited, and I love challenging myself. But that was something initially that I was a little anxious about taking on.
Why? Was it the accent? Because you nailed it.
Not just the accent, you're so sweet. No, just because of I think, I don't know how to word it. I mean, it's just it's a space that I've always wanted to work more in. I haven't worked in a lot, and it's just, it's like
You got to flex a new muscle.
It's flexing a new muscle, because it's very different from drama or an hour or the pacing and the dialogue with Kathleen. Like there's a sort of flow and a rhythm behind it, and just to learn all of that, like flexing that new muscle, it was a little scary to me at first, but it's funny because I had this moment when we were filming, and I sort of thought about all of us and towards the end of filming the series, and I thought about how we were all so perfect in these characters. Like there was no other way. We had this thing that was brought to each and every one of them. I think it was really beautiful, and it's nice to be a part of a process like that when it's magical.
Jenny?
I would say I'm a woman that's living in 2018. I came up in a different time period, and I wanted to personally, with my character, and the hope for the show is to be honest to 1975, socially, personally, culturally, whatever it was, so that we really pay the respect to what these women and what women that we're portraying we did go through. And so I think that at times I had to check myself and be like, and I was like, wait a minute, that wouldn't, oh no, it did happen. You know what I mean? Like the sexual harassment in the workplace wasn't a thing. It was just maybe a boss being a boss, And so I think I had to remind myself that maybe we have come far, but, looking back, like I wanted to really be true, and like I tried to educate myself on like the stances that were of 1975,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what was the toughest part?
Well, I was there every single day for every hour of every day. So just, I think, just keeping up with the pace of a television show. It's 3 months, and I knew going in, like I remember when I met Kyle, I was sort of pitching myself out of the job by saying, like, make sure they have more to do because I want to be with my son and sleep and things. and then, but then I was also realized once I got on set, I loved it so much that I really I was grateful that they didn't listen and that I was there every day. But I think just it's, when you're the lead in a show, it's a really daunting the hours are crazy, and you're always like, because I have so many words to say. So every morning I'm like trying to cram 3 days ahead. It's like doing a final, trying to get ahead for 3 days because then it creeps up on you, the lines, and it's just there's just when you know one scene, you have a whole new table read. So it's just the pace of it. It's very, very intense, but it's really, really exciting and wonderful. So it's awesome. But that's the only. I think that was the main thing, is just sort of trying to have the stamina every single day to do it.
Thanks for your question.
Yeah.
You have another one?
Hi there. Very excited to get a first glimpse on the show. You guys have already touched on it a little bit, that this is going to be a fun show, and you guys are obviously covering something very important, which is female empowerment, especially in that time period. But I'm assuming that, especially given the period, men were terrible, and I'm sure there was a lot of pushback and discomfort. And did you find it just as important to cover that aspect of it as it is the fun stuff too?
Yes, we definitely wanted to, cover both. I mean, they were not all jerks, and my dad, like I said, was not in real life, but those were things that they were dealing with. When my mom got divorced, she had never paid taxes, she'd never paid bills, she didn't know what money they had or anything. She didn't even have a checkbook. So all of a sudden, she found herself going, okay, I don't even know how to do any of this, and she didn't want her daughters to, be raised like that. So she actually got me a checkbook at 10 years old, and I used to keep my unemployment checks from my TV shows. But so we were just dealing with, all of those topics, what women were going through, and, good and bad. So I think we have a great balance.
There's a lot of really good men in the show.
Yes.
Like Cheyenne Jackson, who plays Mena's love interest. He's really lovely. I mean, he's struggling, but he's lovely. And the guy who I end up kind of messing with at some point, he's supposed to be nice too. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Allegedly.
Yeah. I mean, like there's not all, they're not all bad.
I think even Mr. Bishop, who plays my boss,
lovely.
Yeah, he is in real life too. Oh my gosh, biased. But also on the show, you see men go through their different journeys. And that's why I think it speaks to a lot of different types of people. It's a women empowerment show, but I think there are voices that we represent that aren't just women. And I think you can see that in all of all the rich male character roles that we do have.
Absolutely.
There's a great scene between Diana and Mr. Bishop where you something happens and there's a discussion behind it. And I think it goes into,
Men are uncertain of what women wanted. Like, what do you want? Okay, you're fighting for all this new, what is it then? What do we do? How do we do this? So it was a frustrating time for them too. Men who wanted to do good but didn't know any better, generationally.
And if James Tupper was here, he would argue, the guy who plays my husband, that he's a really good guy. As he thinks his character's beautifully perfect, but he's not.
Not even close. We have one last question.
You have to believe.
Yes, it's for Miss Richards, if I could. I'm struck by such parallels between Little House on the Prairie and this new show, American Woman. These strong female characters, pioneers in their own right. And the writers on Little House, I feel like, weren't afraid to go there and write these characters who weren't stereotypical housewives. Do you see these same parallels? And was that important to you?
I had never thought of that, actually. But yeah, you're right. There actually are, and people. I read some review today that was said that these women, you could see that like in the 70s they would have probably been like even on the Real Housewives, like strong, independent, outspoken. But I had never thought of that before. I was still little when I did Little House. I was like 5 years old when I started, and now I'm thinking about it like they really were. And then the things that inspire me, like with the show and some other shows that I have in development, are always strong female characters, because that's who I grew up with, and that's what my mom raised me to be. So, and I have 4 daughters, and I'm hoping they're going to be strong, independent women too.
Can I add that when we talk about strength in women, that doesn't mean that we aren't fragile and frail and falling apart. It's just sort of being brave and facing your truth, because all of these characters are suffering and falling apart and doing all the things that we do. Like, I never want anyone in my life, like my kid or any little person, to think that strength means like, because that's right. Old school thinking, like where you're like, I'm strong. It's strength is just being who you are and speaking your truth and finding yourself, and that's where the strength lies, don't you think?
Yes,
knowing
absolutely.
that you're worthy. I think that's a big thing these women realize. Like, I'm worth it. I'm worth fill in the blank.
Even if you don't always feel it.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. That was a great question. I feel like that'd be like a really good think piece somewhere on the internet. So I'm going to write that probably.
Okay.
So if you guys are excited to see the show, which I'll tell you, I watched the first 3 episodes. It's great. American Woman debuts on Thursday at 10 p.m. on Paramount. Guys, give it up for these wonderful ladies.